usually.
Okay, welcome everyone to the call today, the
Conference
Mastermind
muted.
call. My name is David Ellis, Blue Diamond with doTERRA, and I am really excited to be talking with you guys today. I've got some really cool ideas that I would love to explore, and especially with a group like we have today of people who are anxiously engaged in a good cause, to be able to talk about some of these things that I think are life issues. This isn't just about building your business, which obviously it will help you to improve your business, but this is about life. And we're going to talk about some things that will help you in every aspect of your life, whether we're talking about doTERRA, relationships with spouse, children, or just success in every aspect of life. So I want to start by asking for a couple of people that wouldn't mind raising their hand and sharing with me and the group one example of something in your life that was very, very difficult that you did and you lived through it. So I'm going to start with this to kind of kick it off. The first thing that came into my mind when I was a financial advisor, and I set a goal one time. There was a incentive thing going on, and I was at a certain spot with a certain number of policies that I'd written throughout the year, and I was challenged to set a goal for where I was going to end the year, and I needed about I think it was 35 policies to break over the record of the most that had ever been done by an agent within 1 year. And so I thought, well, I'm going to go for something. Why not that? And so I did. And that was during December, which you all know there's a lot of things that happen in December. But I set this goal. I went at it. I pushed really, really, really hard. And I worked really hard. And it became all-encompassing and very consuming. In the end, I ended up with 37 policies, set not only the record for the entire year or total number, but obviously for ever written in a month. It was a really big accomplishment, but what it did for me was more than just having accomplished that thing. It was what it spoke to me and my ability to accomplish anything. And it was just a really cool thing. Now, I ran myself into the ground to the point that I was sick the entire month of January, which I don't recommend. But it was that particular experience that I had was something that changed really the rest of my life and the way that I looked at what I could and couldn't do. So I would like just to have maybe two people just share with the group something that was very, very difficult that you did that you achieved, and in like a minute or so. Okay. Let's see. Do we have any hands? Melissa Guthrie, you have your hand raised. Let me unmute your line.
Thank you. Yeah, for me this is pretty fresh. So, for anyone who doesn't know, I'm a competitive triathlete and I race for Team USA. And this year, I took on a race that was the most challenging race that I've ever done in terms of degree of difficulty of the course as well as the length of the race. Usually I've been racing short course, and this was what was called long course, and it was a duathlon, so it was run, bike, run, and it was the equivalent of what an Ironman is to triathlon. So it was a 10K run, a 150K bike, and a 30K run. And so for me, training for the race was extremely difficult, and there was many times during just training alone that I thought, oh my goodness, how am I ever going to finish this race? Like, this is going to be brutal. And so I knew that I was up against an extremely huge challenge, regardless of my state of health. And so it was about 3 weeks prior to the race, and this race is in Switzerland, by the way, so extremely hilly, challenging course. They say it's probably one of the most challenging endurance race courses in the world. And so, if any of that didn't feed anxiety for me, I don't know what did. So then about 3 weeks before the race, I was doing just a race, just a running race. It was a trail race, and I ended up injuring my foot. Well, that injury, I still had to train through that injury, and I was using all my known modalities, just thinking, you know what, it's going to get better. I know what to do for this type of an injury. I'll be fine. Just thinking, okay, I just need to be healthy when I get to Switzerland, right? And with all my best efforts and the best efforts of employing, other health professionals, it was not improving. And came to be about a week and a half, 2 weeks before the race. At this point, my coach was like, no more running. I don't want you running at all, which then fed more anxiety for me because I'm thinking, I've got to be training and you're telling me to stop running, for the next 2 weeks before this race. So I had different things like this going on in my mind that were feeding, those little elements of doubt of, can I really do this? Am I really going to be able to do this? So then I get to Switzerland. My foot is not better. And at this point, I don't have a firm diagnosis, but I'm pretty sure that it's a stress fracture based on all of my knowledge and experience and all of my self-diagnosis. But not confirmed by a doctor. I can't walk, and I have got like 4 days before the race, and I kind of go into like meltdown mode, And so at this point, I'm going, the only thing that's going to get me first to the start line and second across the finish line is a miracle. It's going to take a miracle. And so, I've listened to so many different people within doTERRA and just different, circles that I play in that talk about these amazing miracles that they experience in their lives. And I've never felt like I've been much of a recipient of major miracles, maybe little tiny ones here and there, but none of the big major ones that really help you know that you can do extremely outrageous things and that you've got a support system beyond what you can see that's there helping to orchestrate things in your life. So long story short, over the next 4 days, my foot kind of went through ebbs and flows of improvement, and I get to the start line on race morning, and I felt almost no discomfort, no pain, and I was like, oh my goodness, I think I got my miracle. and I had a strategy laid out with my coach of how I was going to get from, one element to the next element of this race. And so when I went into the race, I just had this greater confidence that I could do this. I couldn't do it alone, but with divine assistance, I could do this. And so, long story short, I went out on the course and I gave it everything that I physically had, and I drew upon powers beyond my own. And there were still moments that I thought, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if my foot's going to give out at some point during this race. I don't know if my body's going to, go into major shutdown. I have no idea, but I'm going to just take it 1 mile at a time. And that's what I did. And long story short, it was the most challenging race that I have done in my entire life, and I've been racing since 1999. And this was the toughest course ever, not only because it was just the most challenging course, but because I was doing it with a stress fracture, because after the race it was diagnosed that I actually did have a stress fracture. So it was painful for somebody with a healthy body. It was extremely painful for somebody with a stress fractured foot. But I had my sights set on finishing that race. I was going to finish regardless. And it took a miracle, and I received a miracle because I did cross the finish line. And it was a bit epic because not only did I cross the finish line, but I also took the bronze medal. And
Wow.
that was something that it was such a faith building experience for me that, number one, I had the capability to do that race, and I wasn't sure that I did. Even when I was healthy, before I got injured, I wasn't sure I was going to be able to cross that finish line. So it was proof to me that, yes, you can do this. Stop doubting yourself. Believe more in yourself. Believe in your abilities, and believe that, yes, miracles are real, and those miracles are not just for other people. Those miracles are for you too, Melissa. You can have them. You can have little miracles. You can have big miracles. You can do hard things. Give yourself more credit, and know that you have a support system that you can't see that is helping you to accomplish the big things that you are striving for in your life. You are worthy of them. And it was just an incredible experience that has helped me not only on the athletic side, but it's helped in every other area of my life, and especially with doTERRA, because I've been in what I would consider, up to this point, kind of a stuck place within my rank, and feeling like I don't know if I can get out of this place. And being able to experience what I did with this race was just confirmation to me that, you know what, you can get to diamond, you can get to blue diamond, you can get to presidential, you can go beyond that, and the little miracles and the big miracles that you need in your doTERRA business are just as available as the miracle you needed to cross that finish line.
Wow. So that was awesome. I'm going to run with that, okay? Because just for the sake of time, I know there's a couple other hands up here, but that plays exactly into what I wanted to talk about. And so with what Melissa just shared, she created something, right? She did something that not only is she never going to forget, ever, but neither is anyone who is associated with her, who loves her, and who has ever supported her in her goal and her ambition, right? I mean, because that was impactful not only for you, Melissa, but I am sure for everyone that lived through that with you, your family, your friends, those people that were around you that saw what happened, that was impactful. And for all of us on the call to hear that and to understand that. So I want to read a quote. And as I read this, I want everybody on this call, this isn't just presidential, blues, platinum, whatever. Is anybody on this call, I want you to listen. I want this to sink in. And then I want to have a couple of people raise your hand. And I want to hear what you felt. What the feeling was when I read this. And so this is unscripted, just the first thing that comes up when I read this quote. This was shared with me. A gal on our team, Tommy Kimber, sent me a little video clip of a guy. He was talking about why and creating your why in different things. But there was a couple things that came out in this, and there was a quote that I have now written up that has become a part of my mantra. And it goes like this. It says, "It is easier to live in the comfort of slavery than the uncertainty of freedom." What does that mean to you? I'm going to read it again. It is easier to live in the comfort of slavery than the uncertainty of freedom. Now, I've got 4 hands. I'm going to go with the first one that I just saw as I scrolled down. Is area code 312 ending in 6741. Tell me your name and then what that meant to you.
Hi, my name is Heather Dart. I'm fairly new to doTERRA, just within the last few months. I'm administrative director level so far, but the first thing that came to mind was the word forgiveness and how we hold on to our point of view, not forgiving whether ourselves or another, is actually much harder work than it is to let go and forgive. And we think it's going to be really hard. We think it's just absolutely can't do it. So that we torture ourselves by holding on to it versus forgiving.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, another hand. Alonto Mengendog. Let me unmute your line. Okay, go ahead, Alonto.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so the first thing that came to mind was the story that I heard about Harriet Tubman. And I don't know if you've heard of this, but so she was being interviewed, right? And she was being kind of praised for all the accolades that she was doing when it comes to freeing slaves. And it was one of the most amazing quotes I've ever heard. And this is what she said, that, yes, I did all that, but you know what? I could have freed thousands more if only they knew they were slaves. So in that understanding of like what you just mentioned of people are more comfortable with that aspect of slavery than the uncertainty of freedom, because like she was in these situations where she would go to slaves that were comfortable in their situation. Like they had a master that was okay treating them. They from like certain positions to their life, and they didn't want to leave that.
Yeah.
Alonto, did we lose you?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
So that whole idea is really awareness is the most important thing, because when we get into like comfort, when we get into a situation where we're safe, where it's automatic, a majority of the time is we don't even know what's going on. We don't even know like what it is that we're in. And when you have a person come in with this like new idea, like, hey, did you know that there's freedom out there? And they have no clue what it is, because it's their comfort, it's their knowing of their situation that leads them to stay there instead of going to somewhere that they don't know. And that has been like one of the greatest epiphanies that I've had when it comes to just talking to people and creating that mind shift. And it was for me is really like the two types of people out there in the world, right? There are the bosses who make all the money and the slaves who make them rich. So which one do you want to be?
Right. That's powerful. Okay. So let's do one more. And I apologize for those of you that also have done a lot of hands up, but there's so much stuff I want to get to. So I'm going to unmute. Jessica Burke, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
So I was reminded of a story that I just read recently about circus trainers and how they get these baby elephants, and at the time they will stake down a spot and they'll put a heavy rope on these baby elephants that they can't break from. They can't break free from. And as they grow up and become these huge, powerful animals, it still just takes, now it's a small rope for them to be contained and to not move because they've been conditioned and learned over the lifetime because of one experience when they were younger that they can't break free from that. And I think it's so similar with our generational habits or the things that we learn when we're little or experiences that we come across in our lifetime, that at one point in time there's a thought or an experience that comes to us and we put a chain on ourselves and we realize and we start to learn and train ourselves that we can't break free from that thing. And it takes a lot of mental clarity and motivation and hard work for us to recognize that, one, that is a lie, and two, to realize the action steps to break free from those ropes. So when we're talking about the uncomfortableness of freedom, a lot of times it's because we have put a chain on ourselves from an early age and didn't think it was possible and didn't know what that would feel like. So that was the first thing that came up to my mind was that story.
Awesome. So I want you to remember that because I'm going to come. You actually hit on 2 points and one that we're going to talk about a little bit later. But so that's perfect. You guys, oftentimes we don't recognize really. So what is slavery? What is freedom? Right. So what we're talking about today, for those of you that jumped on, what we're talking about is how do you do big things in your life? Right? How do you accomplish big things? Because how many of us want to be the person that came, lived our life, died, and nobody even really knew we were here? Right? You look back on as everybody has ancestors. Nobody was hatched. Everybody came from somebody, right? Look back. What are the stories? Who was remembered? Who made an impact? And you guys, it's those stories, it's those things, it's those difficult things. It's the hard things that people did, overcame, and set an example for others of what they could do because of what they did. We've had some examples already shared today. I mean, Melissa's experience. And that's just show everybody that you can physically do more than you think you can physically do. Right? But we all have those experiences. So I want you to be thinking in your mind of somebody in your past, somebody in your ancestry, or somebody that you just knew that you admired. What did they do? How did they become admired by you? What is it that they did that makes you feel like, I want to be like them? Because you guys, when we define what is slavery, what is freedom, I had a discussion with a gal the other day. We were talking about her why. And I said, you realize you are a slave, right? And she said, I'm not a slave. I said, well, if you stopped working tomorrow, what would happen in your life? She says, well, I'd just go get a job. No. If you stopped working and you stopped getting money from the employer that you're currently working for, what would happen in your life? She says, well, I wouldn't have any food. I wouldn't have any groceries. I wouldn't be able to pay my mortgage. And we started going through what would happen. And the realization came to her is she is literally a slave to that monthly paycheck because she had nothing saved up. Now, this particular gal did have a little bit, but not enough to go very far. So you understand, you get my point. How many of us have enough saved up that we really are free if something were to happen? How many of us, if we lost our job today, that would significantly impact our life? Well, that makes you a slave. You're a slave to that paycheck because you don't have the freedom that's provided by not having to worry about that. So I want you to think about that in your life. Where are the areas in which you are a slave to those things? And I love Rod's vision. And you know, he painted this in the very beginning. And we all know, what do? We lift and liberate. That's liberation. Liberation is freedom, is unshackling the bonds of slavery of any kind. Slave to a job, slave to a bad relationship, slave to a paycheck. Okay? So how do you break free of that? How do we get, we do big things, we do hard things, we do something to break through. So I want you to think about this. And I want a couple of comments on this. One, we already had. And this is my second question that Jessica kind of spoke to. But I want you to think about this question. Why do we settle for less, for mediocrity? Why do we settle? Why do we decide, you know what, they could do that, but I can't? Where does that come from? Where does it come from? Okay? I'm going to take a couple of comments here, and I apologize. I don't know how many of you had your hand raised for something else before. This looks like several of them lowered. So we've got hand raised right now. Mandy. Let me unmute your line. Go ahead, Mandy.
I'm here.
Why do we settle?
Well, I had my hand raised for the one earlier, but this kind of goes with it too. I found this quote, and I don't remember where I found it, so I apologize for that. But it says, if you don't know your options, you don't know you have any. And I think that's where they come from. A lot of times is we think that those options aren't available to us when they are. We just get stuck in this little bubble or comfort zone of ours that we're, no, I'm happy, I'm good, I don't need anything else, I don't need any more challenges. But once we realize, hey, that is for me, why not? Why can't I have that? Or why can't I go for that? I can totally do that. And I think as a mother, I kind of, we tend to get lost in motherhood. And now I think the reason why we have so many women in doTERRA that are in their, late 30s coming out of their shells, their kids are getting older. Why can't we have that? Our kids are more self-sufficient. Let's go for it. Let's do it. And I don't know where I was going with that exactly, but besides the fact that I think we just get comfortable in those zones and we don't always have that energy to go for the things that we really, really want deep down in our hearts and that we really need to actually live to the potential that Heavenly Father has given us.
Right, because that's all we know. That's all we know.
Yeah.
We don't know what else is out there. Okay, Virginia Hume, you're unmuted on our end. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm here with Rod. He came out to help us, but it's choosing to look for new options. And when you feel stuck, that means you need to grow because you're choosing, as Lonto was so beautifully explained to us. You want the freedom, you're going to have the unknown. And it's walking out with faith, plan in hand, and you do it. And you just hyper-focus on the plan. You cannot listen to the doubts that fly into your head or people would say. You have a solid plan,
Virginia,
you do it.
Why do we? Why do we? So that's what we have to do, but why do we settle? Because everybody does in their life at some point. We've all done it. We've all had those moments where this is good enough. This is just fine.
No.
I'm okay here. Why do we do that?
Okay, if you settle, you're not going to grow and progress, and you'll feel sad a lot. And I've had enough experiences that I don't want to feel sad. I want to be able to do certain things. And so that means I'm going to do that, do the hard stuff. Because then I'm free inside. I don't feel trapped. And I don't like the feeling of feeling trapped. And if you choose to put the horse blinders on and not look around and move forward, you're going to feel that trappedness and hard to forgive. I had experience yesterday that I had to choose to be patient with someone and not jump to conclusions or stay in a space of being so frustrated with the choice a person made. And that wouldn't serve me well in helping others if I stayed there. And I thought, nope, I have to let go. Grieve that the person made that choice, but move forward and be grateful for the good around. because we hyper-focus on the spot on the picture, not look at the whole picture. And when we have to guard against that and recognize when it starts happening, I'm going to change, I'm going to be grateful, I'm going to journal it, I'm going to move forward with the positive. And so we have a trial. As Katie talked about, the rain of life happens. So move forward from that and see what you're grateful for and keep working towards it. And we'll all have challenges. That's called mortality. But choose to move forward and be grateful and keep looking.
Awesome. Okay. Let's see. We've got Jessica Burke. You had your hand raised. Go ahead.
Sorry, did you say Jessica?
Yes.
Okay, good. I didn't hear it. Okay. So I agree with the first person that shared. Like, this is something that I thought for a long time, ever since the doTERRA business opportunity came into my life, because I felt like, well, if that's possible, why isn't everyone doing that? Like, why isn't everyone Presidential Diamond, or why isn't everyone trying? And throughout my journey, as I've seen builders come in and go out and come in and go out, wondering, why don't they stick with it? And even in my own hard times, thinking, why is this so hard? Or why is my vision not always as clear about things? And I agree with the first caller the first commenter that I think until we've seen something like that happen, it's almost, there's some generational beliefs that get passed on. Like, as I've kind of watched people within my own close circle and the different economic statuses of people that we know and we love, it really is something that if you are, in some cases, if you are raised in a certain economic level, you tend to repeat that cycle. So if you come from a family who's been well off, there's a mindset that's present that it's not hard to create wealth. And so that's something that's just already a part of you. You've seen it happen. But if you've come from maybe a lower economic family situation and you've never seen that happen, there's some beliefs that your parents are holding, and maybe even your grandparents and great-grandparents, about what money is and how it's created and what your role is with money. And so I think that that's one reason why we don't, because we either don't believe in it because of things that have been taught or passed down to us, or we haven't ever seen it. But also there's a really high level of vulnerability when you want to move forward with something. Like, there's something that's really raw for you to be able to say, I want that, especially if it's going to require some changes within yourself and within your life. And so I think that a lot of times, if there isn't a strong belief level, if you haven't seen it done or know it can happen, if it's stepping out of your comfort zone and there's a sense of vulnerability, a lot of times I feel like people get scared at that and just go right back where they were comfortable, which I think all of that's been said already.
Right. Which right, it ties right back to our original quote, is it's easier to live in comfort, in the comfort of slavery, because it's what you know, it's what we've experienced, it's where we've been, it's what we've been told, than the uncertainty of freedom. Because uncertainty comes from what both you and the other caller or the other person said, is the uncertainty of freedom being that we may not know, right? We may not know, what is it? We think we want it, but what is it? Okay?
Right.
So last comment on this, and then we'll move on. I got Alonto. Alonto, you have your hand raised, reference to why do we settle. Go ahead, Alonto.
Okay, so I have an answer to the question, why do we settle, and how we let it go. Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah, we're going to cover that next, so you'll probably lead right into it. Go right ahead.
So I'm going to give everyone on this call a tool to be able to do this. So for everyone on the call, I want you guys to take out a blank sheet of paper and draw a cross, to create 4 quadrants. And on the top left of the quadrant, you're going to write down employee. And the feeling with the employee is comfort and security. On the bottom left of the quadrant is going to be self-employed or subject matter expert, and that's the feeling attached to that is being liked or being significant. The top right is going to be a business owner, and that's the feeling attached to that is control and being right. And then at the bottom left is an investor, and that represents freedom. So it all boils down to priority. What's most important to that person? So when the question, why do we settle? It's usually that we value safety, security, being liked by others, being significant to people, having that control or being right. Than the freedom that we're actually searching for or wanting. So if the priority is more towards being an employee because you want that comfort and safety, then you'll never be an investor. You'll never be freedom because that outweighs the desire for that comfort, right? And it's the same thing for all the different quadrants. You can only exist in one. That if you want freedom, you're going to have to let go of that comfort. You're going to have to let go of that safety. You're going to have to let go of those people that are going to criticize you, because when you build a business, when you really attain this amazing life that everyone wants and desires, you're going to create enemies, because you're going to have people that are going to be like jealous of you, like hurtful to you, that is not going to flat out like you. And you're going to put yourself in certain situations where you don't have control, or the thing that you're doing now might not be the right path to get you to where you need to be. So you have to let that go.
Right.
And if you look, the 1%ers, like those people that are making success, big success throughout all of life, they have that mentality of being an investor and being in freedom, because they don't let all the other things bother them.
That is right. Now, I want to, that was a perfect lead in, by the way, Alonto. I appreciate that, because I want to make one point, and then I want to go back to what Alonto just talked about. This goes along with what the callers, Mandy and Jessica, and the one that talks about. Why do we settle, right? Why do we allow ourselves to shrink and become okay with it? And like was mentioned, it's what we know. You know, those maybe, you know, we were raised in a house where there just wasn't a lot of success. And so if we're just a little bit more than that, we're successful. And so you feel okay with that. Maybe it's because we don't know, right? We don't know what we don't know. It's what we've been taught. I want to throw in one more that wasn't mentioned. And I believe this is probably one of the greatest reasons why. It's science. You guys realize there's a scientific law. There's a scientific law, and I forget the name of the law, but the scientific law that basically states that things on a plane tend to pull everything to that plane. And I wish I could remember the law. I read it in a book the other day, and I can't remember. If somebody knows it, they can share it, great. But it's the same principle by which, like, think about a thermostat, right? A thermostat. When it gets too hot, what does the thermostat do? It pulls it down. When it gets too cold, the thermostat pulls it up. There's things about us in life that are the same way. You guys have all heard about the story of the monkeys, right? You put a banana in a room full of monkeys, if there's one monkey, he'll immediately scurry up, grab the banana. Everything's great. If there's a bunch of monkeys, they will never get the banana because the moment one tries to go up to grab it, they pull him down into this plane. And you guys, I'm not going political here because it doesn't matter which side of the aisle you affiliate with. There is a demonization of wealth in our country. Where if you're wealthy, it is a given that you had to hurt, steal, cheat, lie, abuse, whatever people to get there. Is there not? Right? How many of you were brought up with a parent that said, I don't want to be wealthy because I don't want to be like them? And you're sitting there going like, well, what are they like? Because we're taught from a very young age, this goes back to what Jessica was talking about before, we're taught certain things. We have an experience that says that you're in a situation where maybe you want to rise up and you're taught, you're pushed down. And so in your brain, you plant that seed. Oh, I'm not going to do that because that's bad. I get my hand slapped. Right? Certain things happen in our lives that create this desire to conform. Because of, right, society says it's evil to be wealthy. And what Alonto just referred to, I'm going to take you back to Alonto's statement where he said, you become wealthy and what? People will not like you. All of a sudden you'll stand out and nobody wants to stand out. Everybody wants to conform. And how many of you guys have been in a situation with your friends, right? You have a group of friends. Maybe it's your high school friends or whatever. Somebody starts to be really successful, and what do the rest of them talk about it? And what do they do? They're trying to pull them down. Oh, you don't want to do that. Oh, you don't want to do that. Come back down. Come with us, because then we're all feel good, because we're all sitting in here in our mire together. Right? When you rise up, you make me feel bad because I'm not rising up. And so we want to justify each other, right? Everybody wants to make it puts you in a bad position if you see somebody rise up and you're sitting there on the couch. You're like, oh well, no, get down, get back down here with me. You guys, this is real. And if you think it's not, I want you to take some time today and think about where in your life are you buying into the things that have been told, or where in your life are you allowing other people's opinions or other people's thoughts, other people's ideas of what should or shouldn't be affect you? I believe that there's a lot of us out there, a lot of us who don't rise up to our potential simply because we're afraid that we're going to lose our friends. We're afraid that people might think something of us. We're afraid we don't go get a housekeeper because, ooh, what is all my neighbors going to think? Right? That might be hitting home for a few people because we all do it. We all do it. And we do it because of what Alonto alluded to as well, but I'm going to take it a step further. I'm going to read you a quote. Right? I'm going to read you a quote. You've all heard this quote. This isn't anything new. By the way, there's nothing new. Everything is ideas that are retaught in a different way. So I want to teach you a concept, and I want this to, you guys, this is what we're going to end on because this is powerful. Okay? You've all heard this quote before, but I want you to think about it in the context of what we're talking about here. Right? Why do we allow ourselves to play small? Why do we allow ourselves to settle? Jim Rohn stated, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Or, I've heard it in other ways, you're the average, some total average of those that have the most influence upon you. So if that's the case, for the average of those who have the most influence upon us, that leads to the law, right? We're around our 5 closest influencers, and what happens if you start to rise up, they're going to pull you down. Would you guys realize that same law holds true when you associate with people who are above where you are, or who have qualities that you desire. When you associate with those people that think differently than you do, They want to pull you up because they want you in the status. They want you in the constant nature, right? It's a powerful law. Now, I want to ask a question. Well, I'm going to actually make a statement. For the sake of time, I'm going to make a statement that I believe is true, and you can argue with me if you want to, but I believe it's true. Oftentimes when we hear that, like what Alonto had said, we make people, people get angry with us or people get jealous of us or whatever. How many of you are afraid of success because you'll lose your friends? Now, I read a book the other day, and in this book it talked about this law, and it was really cool the way it laid it out. And I had this epiphany that you guys realize we've certainly, my wife and I, we have certainly raised our financial, call it status or level, whatever you want, our financial level since we started doTERRA. There's some people that we don't associate with as much anymore, just simply because maybe they didn't have the right values or things like that. But you guys realize this law is not just finances. So some of our very, very best friends have not changed at all financially. We still hang out with them. We love hanging out with them because guess what? They are way funner people than we are. They're in a higher status when it comes to fun than we are. And so we are still great friends with them because guess what? We're going to Dominican with them at the end of March because they plan fun events and they invited us to come. We rarely ever talk about money with them. We have other friends that they're just really great people from a moral standpoint. Their ethics, their values are just incredible. And wherever we're around them, we walk away wanting to be a better person. We try and spend as much time as we can with that group of people. Right? It's okay, you guys. This is what I want you to understand. You don't have to think that if I become successful, I'm going to lose my friends or I have to get different friends. Because there's people all around you that are better than you in all the other aspects of life. We're just talking about one in being success. That's just one aspect. Okay? So I want you to put aside this idea that if I become successful, I'm going to lose my friends. I have to find new friends. Well, the reality is you're going to by nature because, like, for example, we go to the incentive trip every year. And when we go to the incentive trip, guess who we hang out with? We hang out with people within doTERRA that are successful and they think differently, they act differently, they have bigger goals, they have bigger desires, and we hear some of these things they want to do. And we're inspired and we're motivated and we're lifted to another plane. So, the question I want to ask the mastermind, and I want to ask the group here, is I want you to think about this, and I want you to give me a couple of ideas. For those people sitting out there going, okay, well, Ann, I really want to associate with more successful people. How do I do it? How do I do it? How do I put myself in circles of people who think differently, think bigger, have bigger vision, have bigger goals? How do I do that? Because maybe there's not that type of people in my small little town. Or maybe within the people that I associate with, there's just nobody that is that way. How do I break through? How do I do that? So I want a couple of ideas. I want a couple of ideas of different ways that people can enter or put themselves in circles that embody the qualities that they desire. Okay? So we're talking about embodying the qualities that you desire. How do you get into those circles? Let me click over here. Let's see. We've got Virginia Hume. You have your hand raised. Go ahead.
Yes, this is Virginia. This is Rod.
Oh, go ahead, Rod.
I had you fooled there for a second.
Yes, you did.
Oh, that's great. I'm sitting here with Virginia in Pennsylvania. But so one of I've been blessed periodically to be mentored by people at different critical points in my life, and one of them was she was the executive assistant to the dean of the College of Business at Southern Utah University, where I went to school. And I walked into her office one day, and we had gotten to be friends. And I said to her one time, I asked her where she lived, and she lived on the hill behind the school. And of course, that hill is where all the rich people lived. And I just made a snide comment to her at the time, because apparently my wealth thermostat was set pretty low. And I said, oh, so you live on Snob Hill. And she taught me a lesson of my lifetime that forever altered my view. And she stopped. She put down her pen because she was working, and she turned her chair around and faced me, and she said, I want you to understand something. She said, my husband and I moved to a house on the hill there, and the neighbor across the street is a state senator. The person that lives to the right of me is the mayor of the city. The person that lives 2 blocks there, two houses down, is the chief of police. These are people that I know. And because I associate with them, I now have access to some of the most influential people in the community. And then she taught me, she said, and if you want to have access, you need to position yourself so that you're in the middle of the people that are making things happen in the world. And so I thought that forever altered my opinion of why people live where they live and what they do. And so I'm gonna give a tip out that you can assess where you live as a big factor of this. And now I know circumstance kind of dictates a lot of things. However, we actually are in control of these types of things. I remember visiting with some team members several years ago that were in kind of a really bad part of the area of their city, and they were having difficulty making connections with people that were in, that were motivated, I guess you could say. And so we talked a lot about how they could get into a new location, maybe readjust their environment a little bit. And so I'm going to say you can look at your environment, and I think your environment begins internally with your mindset, and then it expands to physically. In other words, do you allow your world to be cluttered? For example, these are things you can do no matter where you live. You can begin by cleaning out your insides and getting your mindset straight, and then you can begin to clear or organize your existing environment. And then if it's possible or circumstances start to allow you, is to start to point yourself direction or give yourself a desire to position yourself where you can be connected well, or put yourself in communities that are well connected. Like if you want to be around motivated people or you want motivated people on your team, the solution is really easy. Go where motivated people are. Hang out where motivated people hang out. And go be with motivated people. If you're a motivated person, go be with motivated. They'll be attracted to you. They're not going to care, about all the things that we think they care about. It's just about where you are. I mean, I moved into a wealthy neighborhood one time as a poor person, and we had one car. But the people around still invited my wife to go do things, even though she didn't have a car to go do that with, and they would come and pick her up. And so she was inadvertently associating with people that, had at that time, built themselves up more than we had. Now that gave us a circle of influence, and started to put us in a mindset of people that think differently. Our next door neighbor there owned a company, a big bedding company, and had a new invention. And people around the corner, Charles Schultz, the inventor of Charlie Brown, his daughter lived around the corner from us there. And so it put us in a new, Seth just bought a house, for example, in a new neighborhood. His neighbor is Larry King and Donny Osmond. He's put himself in an entirely new network of people. And so you can guess that he's going to be out in his yard visiting people like Larry King and Donny Osmond and others that are going to be coming in and out of that neighborhood. And so I'm going to say location, one, if you can't do anything about your location, begin with your internal mindset. Expand it to your physical presence, which is, like when I get up every morning, I make the bed. It's a simple thing, but my room is highly organized. And when you go in, it's refreshing and beautiful, and it represents structure and, things like that. These are things you have total control of despite your circumstance. And then from there, just set a goal to reposition yourself in the world, and it'll go miles in this realm.
That's awesome. So I want to add a couple of things to what Rod just said, and we'll end with this. It is a perception. Everything, success and failure in this business, all starts in our mind. Now, you can physically place yourself, like Rod just said, physically place yourself around people that think and live and dictate their lives by the qualities you desire. Physically. Find ways to contact, ways to get in contact with them, ways to connect with them. Now, there's another way though too, and I want to talk briefly about, there's two other ideas. First one is you can also do this through people's work. Right? That's why it's so important that you read good books. Because do you realize when you're engaged, when you're reading a book, you are spending time with that author. You are being influenced by the way that author thinks, believes, acts, right? You are being influenced by them. Remember, you are a sum total of your 5 biggest influences. So find people, find authors, find books, find ideas around what you want to embody. And immerse yourself in that. That becomes your influence. Okay? One other one is the visualization. This is taught very powerfully in a book called Think and Grow Rich, where Napoleon Hill talks about what he would do is he would literally, at night, he would sit down and he would create a council, if you would, with these people of history that he wanted to emulate. People like Lincoln and Washington and Ben Franklin and Thomas Edison and Henry Ford, people that were successful, people that were big thinkers, big vision. And he would envision them in his mind, and he would have a discussion with them, and he'd ask them things. And he said at one point it got so real he had to discontinue because it became such a real thing to him that it scared him. But he said that over time it grew from 5 to over 50 people in these councils that he had learned about. He studied them. Who were they? What did they do? How did they think? You guys, do not let the physical or your current, I don't know, Mike Senator. I couldn't currently go buy a house because you guys, 5 years ago, Seth couldn't go buy a house in that neighborhood either. But he can today. And where is he going to be in 5 years? Okay, so there's more than one way, you guys, and I want you just to envision, to absorb that, to think about how are the ways that I can change the influences that are affecting my life. And how can I surround myself with influences or people who have the qualities that I desire so that I can become that, so I can be pulled up to that. And I will submit to you that if you will make that your mission, make that your purpose, I want to be better. I want to improve myself. I want to become, I want to emulate, I want to embody these principles, these qualities, these things. And you make that your mission, and you take action towards that, and you surround yourself with it. All the other things that we talk about in success as far as it pertains to doTERRA will be a byproduct of that. Because as you become that image of what you desire, you will attract those types of people into your life. And your business will flourish beyond what you could ever physically go out and do right now yourself. That concept, I want you, as we're going to wrap up here in just a second, but I want you to think about that as you go through this entire week. This next week is I want you to do 4 things. I'm going to write these down. The first one is I want you to write down what is the kind of person you want to be. What are the qualities you want to emulate? And then I want you to write down who are the 5 people that you spend the most time with in your life currently. And then ask yourself the question, do they match what you want to become in the future? And then number 4 is I want you to write down who those 5 people or they could be people, they could be a quality, whatever, who those influences that embody the qualities you desire. Write down 5 of them. It might be a book. It might be a person, right? And then I want you to take action on one of those 3 things I just gave you. A direct contact, make contact with them. Surround yourself with them. Find ways to get around them. Look for things that they produce, a book they wrote. Learn, study about their life. There's so much information out there. I met somebody this summer that he's been dead for about 30 years, and he has influenced my life. His name was Wade Phillips. I went to Philmont, and I walked on his land that he donated, that he gave away for free to the Boy Scouts of America. Over 250,000 acres he gave away because he could. He made an impact on me, and I studied his life, and I came to know him and understand him. And he's an influence of mine. He's been dead for 30 years. And then the third one is visualization. I want you to find a way that you can put yourself in a situation where it may be a dead ancestor, right? Maybe somebody that I talked about in the beginning, somebody that did something really cool in your life, in your family, that you are a product of them. And I want you to visualize a relationship with them. Okay? All right. That's homework. I appreciate all you guys being on. I appreciate the efforts you've made to come on. We went over just a little bit. I apologize, but I invite you all to take action on the things we talked about today, and we will see you all next week.